This video provides a brief introduction to the manual monitoring rangeland health and the monitoring methods described in it. In this video I will demonstrate four methods, the four basic methods described in this manual, which are cover, density, gaps, and height. I will demonstrate the application of these methods on 5 subplots, walking to the west in this particular case. Normally one would complete a total of 20 plots, 5 subplots in each direction, each separated by 5 meters of pacing. So I'm currently in the center of the plot. This is where I would have described the soils for the plot, and I would have taken photos out in each of the directions. I walk 5 paces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I place the stick directly down in front of me, a distance of 1 pace in front of me. I place it as close to the ground as possible, and I complete the cover measurements. For the cover measurements, we are recording whether there is a tree, shrub, grass, grass base, or litter at each of these points. There are 5 points marked on the stick, which you can see here on this stick. So at each of these points then, I would drop a pin directly in front of the point and record what I hit. In this particular case, I hit perennial grass and I hit litter. So I would put an X on perennial grass and an X on litter. At the next point, I drop the pin. I get very close to the perennial grass, but I only hit litter. So I mark litter. The third point, I hit perennial grass and litter. The fourth point, perennial grass and litter. And perennial grass and litter at the last point. I'm now going to look for gaps. The gaps are defined in 2 ways. The first is whether the stick lands entirely within a gap where any perennial plant or any annual plant, any shrub, any tree, if anything is intercepted by the edge of the stick, it is not a gap for the general case. And in this case, we put an X here in the bottom box because in fact it is intercepted by a perennial plant, so there is no gap. The second one is only for gaps with woody plants, and here I'm looking to see if any woody plant is intercepted, in which case it breaks the gap and there is no gap. And here I see there is a woody plant, it's breaking the gap, and so I would put an X in the box above. The next is height. I'm going to measure the maximum height of any part of a plant within the box. Not with any plant that happens to have something in the box. So if there was a tree over here, I wouldn't account for the height of the tree there. I only account for the height of any part of the plant that falls within the box within a 1 meter. And so within this 1 meter, this is my highest point, and I classify that as whether it's 0 to 10, 10 to 30, 30 to 100 centimeters, or 1 to 2, 2 to 3 or greater than 3 meters. In this case, this is between 1 and 2 meters, and so I mark the appropriate box on the right hand that says, or circle, where it says 1 to 2 meters. The last thing I do is density, and I'm doing density in this case for perennial grasses, and so I'm going to create a 1 meter square plot, and I'm going to count the number of perennial grasses that are rooted inside that area. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, that's outside, 5, 6, 7 perennial grasses. In the top box, I put the number 7. I have now completed one of the 20 subplots, and I move on to the next one by pacing 5 meters. In this case, I'll have to step 1 meter to the side to get around the shrub. I pace 1, 2, 3, pace back, 4, 5. I drop my stick, and again I start the process over. First point, I have perennial grass and litter. Second, nothing. Third is litter. Fourth is litter, and fifth is litter. Next is gap, and as you can see I do have a perennial grass here, so there is no gap for the bottom box. The next box I have for any gap between woody plants, and there is no woody plant here, and so I'm going to record that as a gap, which means I don't put anything in it. There's nothing, the gap is not broken. The next is height, and I look at the maximum height here and measure that within this 1 square meter area, and it looks like this is the maximum, and I use the side. This is 30 centimeters here. The maximum height is 10 to 30 centimeters. The next that I'm going to record is the density of perennial grass plants. I'm counting perennial grass plants that are rooted in the plot. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I write the number 6 down in that top box, and I'm ready to go on to the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drop the stick in front of me, 1 pace in front of me, and as we can see, there is no litter cover or plant cover at all, so nothing is recorded here, unless I was recording rock, in which case I would need to record rock. In this case, rocks are not being recorded. The next is gap, and as you can see, there are no plants here, so it's landing entirely within a gap, so I mark nothing because nothing is breaking the gap. Height, the maximum height of any plant here. This plant is actually rooted outside, so it didn't come into the gap measurements, but it actually does come into the plot, and so I'm going to measure the maximum height of that plant, and that's again going to be 10 to 30 centimeters. Density, there are no plants rooted within the plot. Density is 0. The next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place it 1 pace in front of me. And again, I appear to have the same situation here. Nothing intersecting, except I have a tree above me. I do want to record that. And so we're not concerned about normally this would have leaves on it, record what we're actually seeing here. And as you can see here, if I project up, the first point is actually coming through a gap, so nothing is recorded. With the second point, it is actually hitting part of the tree, so I record tree. Third is tree. Fourth is tree. And fifth is tree. And so I would record nothing, tree, 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 tree. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is gap, and as you can see, this stick is intercepted by a tree, which counts as breaking both types of gaps, so I would X those out. There is no gap here. The next thing I'm going to do is look at height, and height is clearly greater than 3 meters, and so I'm going to circle the top one for height. Finally, I'm going to look at density of perennial grasses. There are no perennial grasses. Actually, nope, there is a perennial grass here rooted within it, and so I record the number 1. Okay, so my last one, I'm going to paste another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 would be right here. My 5th paste actually lands right here. And often it is necessary to walk into the vegetation, trying to disturb it as little as possible, but it is necessary to move into the vegetation in order to make some of these measurements. So again, I would do the same thing here: the cover, the gap, the height, and the density, and it would be quite similar to the last ones. So that's all there is to it. It generally takes about 1 minute per subplot, or about a total of 20 minutes for the entire plot. Once one is trained, initially it can take an hour or more for an individual plot. For more information, again, please see the monitoring manual itself that provides specific instructions, and if you are working as part of a specific project, there may be some modifications to the methods described there. Thank you.